We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. Hey guys, I want to welcome you guys to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. We've got a great episode this week. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button as well as the notifications bell, and be sure to like, comment, and share if you like this episode, and we'll get into this week's sponsor and show. This week's episode is sponsored by CityVest. CityVest has quickly become the most popular and best way for doctors to invest in top-performing real estate private equity funds that are usually reserved for institutional investors. This unique access to investing in these institutional funds is available for the first time ever through CityVest's easy and secure online investment platform. CityVest does the hard work of conducting due diligence and vetting the investments. They even get a third-party due diligence report that is posted on their website. As a result of aggregating a several $million investment amount into their access funds, CityVest gains access to investing in the institutional investment and is able to negotiate better investment terms such as a 12% preferred return. You can check them out at cityvest.com or go to the link in the show notes below. Now on to the show. So welcome everybody to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, we started out with physicians and we're slowly expanding our reach, impacting more listeners. And we tout 4 types of freedom. The first is financial, emotional, location, and time freedom. And so I try to bring guests that are doing innovative, cutting edge things that are out of the box and try to bring them to you so that you can see what's going on, formulate your own ideas, and get ahead in today's extremely uncertain world. So today we have John Ostenson, and he's going to talk about the world of non-food franchise opportunities. And a little bit about John before beginning. He's the foremost expert on the fast-growing world of non-food franchising. So he's had experience as an Inc. 500 franchisor, a multi-brand franchisee, a franchise investor, author, and consultant. And he's here because he has a passion for educating and supporting others as they explore business ownership opportunities. So John, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here. Love the show and love what you're doing for so many.
Yeah. I know we were talking about a little bit backstage, and really we're trying to expand and open up and see different worlds of possibility. And typically, my niche was interested in real estate investing and consulting, but you have a very interesting background experience as a franchisor. So we'll talk about all about that. But before we begin, just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like many of your listeners, in my case, I was not a physician. However, certainly appreciate all the work that they do and do a lot of work with them. But no, my background's in the corporate world. Did the ladder climb as so many do, and had a good run. But about 6 years ago, I made the move from a public company to a private company with ShelfGenie franchise system. Had the opportunity to come in, serve as their president, and support our franchise owners all across North America, their marketing and the call center and the technology teams and all the support engines. And it really opened up my eyes to this world I've now dubbed non-food franchising. The fact is there are a lot of ways to make money out there. And, a lot of people would rather not do it through the food space. And so that was really eye-opening to me that fast food is not the only area of franchising. And so long story short, ended up spinning off with the founder of ShelfGenie, along with other partners. We've invested in franchises ourselves as franchisees. So we've been on both sides of the table now. And fortunately, we've got good people in place running those businesses for us, which a lot of my clients, follow down that path as well. And it allows me to spend about 90% of my time connecting would-be entrepreneurs or existing business owners with opportunities. And there's roughly 4,000 franchise brands in the U.S. About half of those are in the food space, half are not. And we'll hit on all these industries, I'm sure, in a few minutes. But we focus in those other half, and represent about 500 brands that we vetted, feel really good about for our clients. And we get to walk them through a process where we play matchmaker and introduce them to the opportunities that are the best fit for them, as well as those that we see resonating with others with similar backgrounds around the country.
That's awesome. That's such an amazing introduction. And I know, we have listeners from, newbie all the way to experience. So, in a nutshell, just give just briefly, what is franchising, why it's so hot, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Franchising, first off, I'll say it's not right for everyone. I do have some clients as a member of entrepreneurs organizations. Some current business owners come to me and I have to tell them, no, you're too entrepreneurial. You want to put your thumbprints all over everything and, don't think it's the right fit. However, for so many, I'd say the vast majority, franchising does make a lot of sense from a business ownership standpoint. And some of the reasons are, you've got a playbook on day one. You don't have to go question product market fit. Instead, that path to profitability and you can start executing on it. It's been proven out already in other markets. You've got a franchisor on the sidelines that acts as a coach. The better you do, the better they do. And not all franchisors are created equally. That's why we carefully vet them, because that's an important relationship. You've got other franchisees, other owners across the country or across North America, and they're living the same thing day in, day out. And, you're constantly exchanging best practices, whether it be in testing marketing vehicles or finding areas, pools of talent, exchanging those learnings back and forth. And also, obviously as a business owner, you're building a cash flow, you're able to write off expenses, but you're also building an asset that should have exit value down the road. And, a really interesting study that was done recently that I think opened up a lot of people's eyes to what that looks like. The Rinker School of Business looked at 4,000 business transactions over a 20-year period. And what they found was, they looked at franchised and non-franchised and like-kind industries. And they found that franchise businesses traded a multiple of 1.5 times non-franchised. And so that there's value to that resale buyer down at the end of the line as well.
Awesome. It's so powerful. So for example, when we in business and entrepreneurship, we talk about, what you discussed was the product market fit. And then another thing that a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners talk about is scalability. So how is franchising ultimately a scalable business?
We see a couple of different paths. Very oftentimes, clients of ours will buy 3 territories or 5 territories. We've had several buy 10 territories recently in a few businesses. But what they'll do is they'll start operating in one and then scale to the others over time. And in a service-based business, which say home and property services, typically a territory is defined as 250,000 or 300,000 in population. So you're buying an area. In other cases, if it's a retail customer-facing type business, you're purchasing locations that might have a radius around them that's protected from others moving in. So, that is one path to really go deep with a brand and build it out, maybe in that market as well as additional markets. Another strategy that a lot of clients are employing that's one that frankly I do as well with my partners, and that's to invest in multiple franchises that either complement each other or maybe they diversify from each other. One client of mine is the largest franchisee of 2 Men in a Truck moving service over in Columbia, South Carolina. 39 years old. He's built it up to 10 markets, $30 million business. Well, he's now got a little organization under him, and he's bought businesses that really don't have anything in common with the moving business, but these other franchises that stand alone, both in Colombia as well as in other markets. And in each case, he's put a young general manager in place, 26, 27 years old. And in his case, he's given them some equity and incentivized them and set them up for success. And every deal that we've done together, he's come back and bought additional locations within the first year, which is always a great validation right there. So a couple couple of different strategies that you can deploy, whether it be complementary or diversifying. And you mentioned real estate. I mean, I personally invest in real estate. I'd say more than half of my clients do. And there's a lot of ways to, diversify your investment pool with franchising, but also in some cases, there are businesses that very directly complement those real estate investments. So definitely a lot of synergy between those two.
Yeah, awesome. And now we got the nuts and bolts. And typically when people think of franchise, they think of McDonald's or Subway or Dunkin' Donuts. What are some of the opportunities outside of food, just in some examples?
Yeah, and I'll really briefly touch on food. The reason we've kind of focused in other areas outside of food, I think the food's a different animal. It does require a lot of capital to start up. It can be a little more trendy, and obviously COVID wasn't great for food. And so 95% of my clients don't want anything to do with food. 5% love food, but 95% don't. My background's not food. And so that's where it allows us to go deeper in other areas by eliminating that piece. Really coming out of COVID, there's been no hotter area than home and property services. $600 billion market, everything from gutters to insulation to renovations to, I'm personally invested in a driveway business. I mean, it's a great niche, no other national player in it. It's a fragmented space. We come in with a white collar approach and we don't even have to market that business. There's such customer demand and it's having fun growing that. So home and property services, and some of those could be recurring revenue, like, let's say pool cleaning. Others may be more high ticket, like a garage renovation. I just had a client purchase that, who's actually a pharmacist. And so that's a popular space. Automotive, when you look at the fact that 15 years from now, less than 10% of cars on the road will be electric, even though it's getting the headlines, there's still a long runway ahead for the auto industry. We had a client recently purchased 10 locations of an oil change concept that allows for prefabricated buildings backed by an investor group in unused parking spaces of a retailer shopping center. So just a very different model that's very customer convenient and friendly, but also a great model for the owner on the back end, and very much a semi-absentee, semi-passive type business. I always joke that people will spend money on their health, they'll spend money on their homes, their kids and their pets. And so any businesses that support those, and there are a lot of different ways that they do, those are great spaces to be in. And oftentimes they're Amazon resistant, in some cases COVID resistant, recession resistant. So those are the trends that or themes that we're seeing out there. Certainly, you look at the macro trend of 60,000 or 10,000 people turning 65 every day, businesses that cater to the aging population, whether it be in-home direct care or businesses that allow someone to stay in the home longer and age in place, things like wheelchair ramps and stair lifts and retrofitting the bathroom to make it handicap accessible. There are a lot of little niches that people just don't think of. I just had a client over that bought into a dumpster business back in the fall. There's a business, non-sexy, and I joke that non-sexy is the new sexy. That's what people are gravitating towards. But it's a dumpster business. He's blown out his plans. He just came back and raised some capital, and he's expanding to other markets. And had an engineer recently buy a business coaching franchise. And so all sorts of niches that probably 90% of our clients don't know about or don't think about when they first engage with us.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because it's so eye-opening, the different types of opportunities, and it's just so great to see people such as yourself come onto the show and just tell us these things are possible, these things are happening. And I know a lot of the audience are interested in, you get into a franchise existing, tell us some of the, successes, the returns, some of the downsides, pitfalls, what they should be looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'd say first off, roughly half of our clients are what we call owner operators, where they're looking to make the jump, and run a business full time. That is very common, but we also see a lot that are what we call an executive model or semi-passive, semi-absentee, where, they can put in a little bit of time, but, their preference is to really coach that manager, put someone in place day one that goes through training that, can run the business. And obviously their success is going to come down. I mean, franchising can make the phones ring, answer the phones, do everything on the back end, but they still need to have a good leader running that business. And we have some strategies to help them find that individual and coach them up. So for those that, I'd say, the financial model, if you're paying someone versus not paying someone, that definitely, comes into play. But no, an example, 75% of our clients purchase, invest franchises between deal size of 125,000 and 300,000. We have some a little higher, some a little bit lower, but that's kind of the sweet spot, I'd say, within there. And that's all an investment. That includes your franchise fee, any working capital out of the gate, startup cost. If there's a retail space, it includes that build out, any equipment, inventory, that sort of thing. So that would be your all-in investment. And the returns that we're seeing on this, on the businesses really are eye-opening, oftentimes to our clients. And you get to review what's called the Item 19, which is a piece of the franchise disclosure document that every franchise system has. It shows the average of other owners in the system, what their financial performance has been. So between that and talking to other owners through what we call validation prior to your purchase, you really get an eyes wide open look prior to making the decision, is this right for me or not? So that's really our goal in the process that we take clients through, is to give them that eyes wide open view. But no, I mentioned the gutter business. We actually have done 3 deals there in the last 2 months. One was a Wall Street attorney outside of Boston, late 40s, no background in the gutter business, but he loved the financial model. We had 2 brothers in the insurance business from South Carolina that got into the gutters. And we had a corporate executive sales and marketing background in New Jersey that recently bought in. But, what they liked was, the average franchise location is doing 1.2 million in revenue across all their franchisees. That's the average. And they're averaging about 380 on the bottom line. So very healthy from a margin standpoint after all your expenses are paid. And I'd say that's at the upper end from a margin percentage standpoint, but a lot of the opportunities we work with are not too far off. We've got a great fence and rail business right now that I've got 16 clients engaged in, and they're absolutely thrilled. Problem is the markets are going pretty fast. But it's a business where your average first year revenue is 1.7 million. Second year is 2.8, third year is 3.8, and that's at a 10 to 20% bottom line margin. They've got Home Depot as a national account, so that's driving their lead source. So you're really able to get up and running pretty fast and even run it semi-absentee.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I know a lot of people are interested. How can they get started? What resources such as yourself, and how can they, actually look into starting or buying a franchise?
Yeah, certainly they can Google around out there and on the internet. The challenge with that is you're going to see the best foot forward from each company. They're going to be delivering their marketing materials, and you'll be able to not necessarily see behind the scenes. And that's where we come in. I mean, we do more deals than 99% of other brokers out there, and we've got the relationships with the franchisors, and we can leverage those oftentimes. But we've already done the vetting. We've done the hard work. And the great thing is our process to engage with us is entirely free. There's no cost ever, and the franchisors pay us this. And for them, it's a sales and marketing cost on the back end. None of that ever gets passed on to our clients in any way. So it's a very clean model, from our standpoint. And what we've done is we've streamlined the process. We've done the vetting of the franchisors. What we'll do is we'll spend a little bit of time on a call with the candidate, and talk through the role they want to play in the business, their financial profile, what's their market looking like, where's the opportunity. We go through a handful of different questions, and then based on that feedback and based on what we see going on across the country with other would-be entrepreneurs and what's resonating with them, we take that insight. And then we drill down to what are those opportunities that are the best fit that are available in their market. Typically, we end up with somewhere between 6 and 10 opportunities that we will then review with our clients. And we'll do a Zoom call, share the screen, talk through these different opportunities. And from there, they'll pick usually 3 opportunities, give or take, in which we'll make an introduction to the franchisor. And then they enter the franchisor's discovery process. And at any point in time, they can say, hey, that's not for me. I want to back out. It can be an iterative process. We're serving as a sounding board throughout the process and helping them think through, if this is the right fit and things that they're hearing and learning. And, they're developing that lens from which they're analyzing businesses and comparing A versus B and what are the pros and cons. So it can be a really fun process to go through. It's very educational. And, like I said, we've streamlined it. The franchisor will take them through an overview, the unit economics where they get into the financials. They'll take them through the FDD review, map out the locations in their market. go through the validation where they get to talk to other owners. Then ultimately culminates in what's called a discovery day, where our client will spend typically a day and a half with the franchisor at their home office, meeting with all the franchisors' teams and making sure both ways that it's the right fit. And from there decide, if they want to move forward. And, we help our clients on the funding side, whether it be with SBA loans or through, using their retirement plans. That's a very popular way to self-direct IRAs and 401ks. It's called a ROBS program. So we help them on that piece on the legal side and just kind of holding their hand the whole way through.
Awesome. There's so many topics and ideas, from your answers. And the other question a lot of the audience would have is, they retired or they semi-retired, they start their own business and they realize, they go into business and they actually, own a job or own a new business, another job. And so how can franchises be run as passive or semi-passive?
Yeah, I'd say passive is tough. Very few lend themselves to truly being passive. However, if you find a good general manager to run the business, and again, I've got client case study after client case study of ones that have been able to do that, where they set them up on day one, they go through training, they're essentially, the better that they perform, the more money they make, aligning those interests, but setting them up and then, really playing to your high payoff activities, is that getting involved in the local chamber or using your network, maybe, some of your real estate investing clients that they've got networks of brokers or other personnel in the market that they can leverage those relationships from a referral source standpoint. So, it really allows them to get out of the weeds of the day-to-day and focus on their activities. But it comes down to having a good manager, which, is easier said than done. Your first one may not be the right fit, and then you have to scramble to find another one. So, one thing that we do is one of our clients that's been very successful at finding great general managers and just has had a lot of success is now coaching our clients. And so we will actually fund a couple of coaching calls out of the gate with this guy, and he will share with them all of his learnings, best practices, and really, get them out of the gate strong.
Wow. The other question I had is, what type of personality or what type of industry is a great fit for franchising? Because a lot of the clientele, they come from either law, dentistry, medicine, and a lot of real estate investors. Mm-hmm. So what type of industries are great fit, like for transitioning from one industry into franchising?
Yeah, some of our clients have a sales background. I'd say that's always an asset, no matter what you're going to do. But that's not a prerequisite because maybe you're more on the admin operations side, and your first hire is going to be a sales-driven general manager, let's say. But sometimes you can't pigeonhole people. We have a general manager that's 28 years old running the driveway business that I mentioned. Well, his background over the past 5 years, he's been a CPA for one of the big four accounting firms. Well, he was eager to break out of those four walls and go build something. So you can't find diamonds in the rough sometimes. So you certainly can't prejudge. But no, what I've told, when I was at ShelfGenie and I had hundreds of franchisees across the country, and oftentimes they would come to me at the very beginning and say, "Wait a minute, again, you're running the marketing for us. You're making the phones ring." In our case, we were actually answering the phones for them, booking appointments. You're doing the product development, you're doing the technology, you're training our teams. What do we do on a day-to-day basis? And my answer inevitably was, it comes down to people. It's one, with your team, it's finding talent, incentivizing, retaining them, and making tough calls when needed. But then also, some of that grassroots involvement on the local level, even if the franchisor is running marketing, Google and Facebook ads for you, let's say, if you can still get involved and sponsor that little league baseball team, or get involved in the Chamber of Commerce, or get the name out there, friends and family, and that's always very helpful.
Wow, this has been such a fascinating. I have so many questions, and we'll maybe have a follow-up interview afterwards. Have you return. I know there's going to be a lot of interest in this show. So, what is the best way to contact you, find out about you, read more about you, or even work with you?
Yeah, I'd say as a first step, come out to our website, FranBridgeConsulting.com, and we have a place where you can sign up for our monthly newsletter, and we try to deliver great content in there every month. And so that would be a first step. We'll also make sure that all of your listeners get a copy of our book that releases in Q3 on non-food franchising. So really excited about that. And then secondly, if it is an area that you'd like to explore further, certainly reach out to me, John at FranBridgeConsulting.com, no H in John, just Jon at FranBridgeConsulting.com. And, would love to engage in a quick call and kind of, figure out if it makes sense to take next steps. And, we can certainly share some additional resources as well. So, connect with us on social media. I'd say LinkedIn is where we're the most active, posting 5 or 6 times a week, but we try to put good content out there and educate people. And certainly if we have the opportunity and privilege to work with you, all the better.
Awesome. Such a fantastic discussion. I know franchising, I know entrepreneurship, and it just opens a whole world of opportunity. So John, thanks so much. And we'll see you again on future episodes.
Sounds great. I look forward to it.
What a fantastic show. I hope you enjoyed our very special guest. Just remember, as a shout out to our this week's sponsor, CityVest.com. CityVest gives you access to the best real estate private equity funds with enhanced investment terms, verified due diligence, and lower risk. You can check them out at cityvest.com or click on the link in the show notes below to hear about their upcoming investment offerings. I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislewmdphd.com for more support. I'll see you next week.